12 hours ago, I became an Australian citizen. It's a process I've been working on since 2016 and really since 2012 when I first came here. And the question that Americans keep asking me is why? Why would you want to become an Australian? It's a question that's confused me because it imagines a situation where I'm choosing to become an Australian citizen for some commodity value of it because this country has this benefit to it and that's why I'm going to come here. But it's emotional, ultimately. In 2012, when I had my first job as a tour guide, I walked onto a coach full of people, 50 people in total, 90% of whom were Australian. And they embraced me as one of their own, even though they called me American John through the season. At the end of the summer, working as a tour guide in Europe, these Australians welcomed me down to their country. And I first came here and enjoyed my time here. In 2014, when I returned, a woman who would later become my mother-in-law wanted to welcome me as returning back to the country, and so she just invited me onto her daughter's 30th birthday party. Her daughter's sister would later become my wife. It's now 2016, and I've come here to stay, and I've decided to start my own company, and this country embraces me and allows me to start a business. I've become an employer of Australians, and I start this company, which continues to be a major part of my life. It's 2020 and a global pandemic changes the world. My business is shuttered and I don't know how I'm going to move on. And yet this Australian society embraces the people who are struggling and supports me through it, both spiritually and also financially. Allows me to get through COVID. It's December 2020 and my first child is born at the Joan Kirner Centre here in the west of Melbourne. And something I was just tickled by is that in Australia, babies come with presents. As I brought my son into the room, there was a gift package of traditional Aboriginal art on wraps to put around the baby, and a little message from the Premier of Victoria welcoming this new Australian citizen that we have created. But all the while, I am still not myself Australian. It is an arduous process becoming a citizen. And it's something that is too much to talk about in just one video. But at the very end of it, the final thing you have to do to become a citizen isn't to take a test. It isn't to submit any documents. It's to go to your local council, where your local mayor will preside over the ceremony. And in my case, in a room of 120 soon-to-be new Australians, we were invited to stand up and say a simple oath. After saying this short oath, pledging my dedication to Australia and to honor its rules of democracy, I was welcomed as a new Australian citizen. The ceremony where there were two Americans like me, the number one group of immigrants were from New Zealand, number two from India, but there were people represented from dozens and dozens of countries throughout the world. And at the end of the ceremony, after singing the national anthem, people were invited to sing an iconic 1987 song by the Seekers. I am, you are, we are Australian. And as I sat there with my family around me, singing this song, I was overwhelmed with the feeling that this is a place that I will forever be connected to. I'm not an Australian citizen because it brings me any particular benefit from a practical perspective. I'm not an Australian because it's a beautiful place, although both those things are true. I'm an Australian because it's a country that has welcomed me with open arms and a place that I feel so happy to be a citizen of. So thank you for following me on this journey. I'm looking forward to continuing to sharing stories of Australia and of Minnesota. And I'm going to say goodbye as an Australian for the first time.